My name is Jenna Dean, and supporting me today is our full Towards Zero Waste team, Brandy Hutton, Katie Tiernan, and Audrey Madison. We'll begin with an overview of this ordinance and state single-use plastic laws, share resources, and learn from our panelists who have experience helping to implement the ordinance. And at the end, there'll be a Q&A. So please add your questions to the chat. We will make sure we get to them all. You can expect an email in the next few days with this slideshow, the recording, and any resources mentioned. We have 4 local panelists today representing various parts of the food service industry. Melissa Elkins, Administrative and Sustainability Manager at the Community Food Co-op. Jenny Hannon, General Manager at Colathon Cafe. Oleg Vetkov, owner of Northwest Solutions, and Molly Bressers, Administrative Manager for Pepper Sisters, and our Business Engagement Specialist at Sustainable Connections. Let's pause to acknowledge that we are residing on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Lummi people, the original inhabitants of Washington's northernmost coast and southern British Columbia. Since time immemorial, they have celebrated life on their land, waterways, and on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of their people to perpetuate their way of life. Please join me in taking a moment of silence as we honor their ancestors and acknowledge the past, present, and future Lummi people as the original inhabitants of this land. We want to give a big thanks to our partners, the City of Bellingham and Whatcom County Health Department, and our amazing local program sponsors, Lautenbach Recycling, Sanitary Service Company, The Restore, Mount Baker Care Center and Summit Place Assisted Living, Kulshan Brewing Company, Heritage Bank, LJ's Handyman Service, and Samson Rope. And we're curious to know why you are here today. So if you like, please add the business you are representing or reason why you are attending to the chat. So first off, why do we care about single-use plastics? In a nutshell, we are making a lot of plastics and most of them aren't or can't be recycled. Lots of them are entering our marine environment. When plastics enter the environment, they break down into tiny microplastics, which have harmful effects on marine and human health. Curbing single-use plastics is an important action we can take to address this problem, which is why you're seeing increasing legislation targeting their usage. So Bellingham's single-use plastics ordinance went into effect last summer at the end of July, and it requires durable dishware for on-site dining, and all to-go utensils, straws, cups, containers, plates, and bowls will need to be reusable or compostable. The ordinance defines reusable, meaning that the product can withstand thousands of washes in a commercial dishwasher at hot temperatures. Now there is a list of items that are currently exempt. This list includes produce bags, catering trays, clear plastic food and shrink wrap, uniquely shaped containers such as cupcake holders, and the absorbent liner underneath meat. Exemptions will be reevaluated yearly and remain exempt until 2 suitable and readily available compostable alternatives are available. There are accommodations and exceptions listed in this ordinance. Flexible plastic straws may be provided by request to people with disabilities. Any pre-made and pre-packaged food products may still be sold at your place of business. And if you do not currently have a dishwasher on site to accommodate durables, you may apply for a 1-year extension if you can prove hardship such as insurmountable space constraints, undue financial burden, or other extraordinary circumstances. And you can reapply for an extension again if needed. Bellingham's ordinance also requires hotels and lodging establishments to find an alternative to single-use plastic personal care bottles smaller than 6 ounces. Refillable dispensers are recommended. Bellingham's ordinance adds on to existing state laws. So there's a state plastic bag ban, which replaced a similar law Bellingham has had since 2012. We also have a state single-use plastics rules. These rules require that utensils, straws, and single-use condiment packets be made available by customer request only. And this includes takeout and drive-through. Customers must be able to select just the utensil they need, so they cannot come bundled. You can provide containers with these items in a self-serve station, and bulk condiment dispensers are strongly encouraged. And just like Bellingham's ordinance, flexible plastic straws may be provided upon request by folks with disabilities. So I think a big question everyone might have is, how are we doing? Here in Bellingham, we've been performing outreach to affected businesses to check in on how we can best support this transition. We are pleased to hear from so many businesses that they have at least one, if not all, products fully compostable. And at the same time, we are also seeing there is still work to be done and challenges to overcome, including backstock and supply chain issues. It's interesting, certain businesses will find a product like utensils as a challenge, and other businesses will consider it a success. We want to make it easy to showcase the work businesses have done to transition from single-use plastics. We know it takes a lot of work to transition your products over. So if you are a fully compliant business, we have a Proudly Using Compostables flyer that you can print, or a single-use plastics free decal, also available in black and white. Let us know if you are fully compliant and we'll make sure you get some of these items. We have more ways that we can help.
Oh no, Jenna has paused.
The leader is down.
Well, I will say that we have several ways in which we can help.
Personalized support and print yourself.
Jenna, you paused there for a second. Do you want to restart your talking points for this?
Yes, yeah, thank you. So we are here to help. And again, you'll receive an email with links to all these resources mentioned. We love to provide personalized support. We'll come to your place of business and review the products you're using and help research any products you're having trouble finding. And we have a number of online resources on our single-use plastics page, including a product purchasing guide for locally compostable products, posters and signs you can download and print yourself or contact us for copies, and a help desk contact form for questions and technical assistance regarding the ordinance. And just to note that Sustainable Connections is not in charge of enforcement. We are only here to provide help, but we do have information for who to contact at the City of Bellingham. Other ways we love to help, we offer free waste assessments that go beyond single-use plastics. If your business would benefit from this custom support, please sign up at the link in the chat. And we're especially excited to help your food service business prepare for upcoming composting requirements that are part of HB 1799. If you don't compost your food waste, you're hurting the climate as well as your bottom line. So please contact us and we can help you with that. Our food recovery program helps get surplus edible food to hunger relief agencies. Again, if you find at the end of your business hours that you are throwing away or even composting surplus edible food, please contact us to be part of food recovery. And then a quick plug for 2 events that other Sustainable Connections programs offer. We have our Eat Local First Mixer coming up, hosted by our food and farming program. It's at the beautiful Cloud Mountain Farm Center. This networking event is for any farmers, chefs, grocers, and food producers, and snacks and beverages are provided, and it's free. And the Energy and Green Building Program is working with the city of Bellingham to help businesses save water. There are generous water savings rebates and free offerings for businesses within Bellingham city limits. The first step is to contact the Commercial Community Energy Challenge at energy@sustainableconnections.org to schedule a free water assessment. So I'm going to pass it over to our panelists now. Each panelist will have a turn to share their experience and tips for transitioning and using compostables. And feel free to keep adding your questions to the chat and we'll make sure they get answered. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first panelist, Melissa Elkins. Melissa is the Administrative and Sustainability Manager at the Community Food Co-op. Melissa, thank you, and I'll pass it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you to Sustainable Connections and all attendees. So yes, my name's Melissa, and I've worked at the Community Food Co-op since 1996. And I've been the Sustainability Administrative Manager for about the last decade. We're a member-owned business with over 14,000 active member owners in our community. And I'll note you don't have to be a member owner to shop at our stores, but you do get owner perks if you are. So as a grocery store with a from scratch deli and bakery with over 17,000 products on our shelves, packaging is obviously a pretty huge aspect of our business. We don't produce all those 17,000 products, but we've got them there. We purchased almost $400,000 in packaging in 2022, and that amounts to almost 700,000 pieces of compostable paperboard packaging alone. So between packaging and talking about disposing of packaging, I could probably talk to you for the rest of the afternoon. So I'll try and keep it really succinct. But please feel free to ask questions during the Q&A portion or email me as well. I'm only going to scratch the surface today, and admittedly, I'm a fast talker, so I'll try to keep it less than warp speed here. I figured I'd focus briefly on using paper-based compostable packaging, allowing consumer-owned reusables, and then some strategies for managing margin due to more expensive packaging. Just a little bit of background. We've used compostable fiber packaging in our service deli cases, in our salad and hot bars since 2016, and in our coffee bars since 2019. And then we've used paper straws since 2018, although we do have compostable plastic straws available by request for ADA accommodations behind the counter. I encourage you to think about how you can use a single item of packaging for more than one purpose. One good example for us is hot cups. The co-op's been using eco-products brand hot cups for all drinks, including smoothies and ice drinks for several years now, and it works pretty well for us. Most customers don't even take straws anymore. They just use the compostable plastic sippy cup lid that you would regularly use on a hot cup. This won't necessarily work with every brand of compostable hot cup, but the Eco Products hot cups that we use seem to do the job pretty well. Another area that basically any food retailer can utilize is consumer reusables. The updated Washington Food Code was implemented last year and now allows consumer-owned reusables to be used in food service and grocery stores. But in order to qualify, you have to apply to the Whatcom County Health Department and submit a plan for implementation. Just a heads up with that I spoke with them recently, and they did let me know that they have a lot of new inspectors being trained. So if you're currently allowing consumer reusables but haven't maybe submitted a plan yet, they may just bring that up at an upcoming inspection because there is a learning curve for them as well. Last year, the co-op was approved to allow consumer-owned reusables in our bulk department for gravity-fed items, in our coffee bars for coffee drinks and smoothies, in our produce department, and then in our deli and meat cases. Technically, we did allow all of that and more prior to the food code changing and pre-COVID. We did work with the health department during that time. It wasn't like a secret to them with what we were doing. But when we heard the state was considering amending the food code to officially allow reusables, I think that was back in 2018 that first all started. I definitely lobbied the state for a couple of years in support of adding this section to the Washington Food Code, as it's an effective and cost-efficient way to help reduce single-use packaging in our municipality. And so this is something that basically every restaurant, deli, and coffee shop in town can implement for a really nominal cost, or really for no cost at all. I'll note that any restaurant can allow a dine-in customer to fill a personal container with the remainder of their meal to take home, and you don't need to file a plan if that's the only place you allow consumer reusables. But that means you're not paying for their to-go containers, so it's saving you money right there. If you want to go above and beyond that, though, like allowing reusable beverage containers, the application process requires you to create a training plan, introduce control measures, and create any signage relevant to your container use. So for us, that meant like new signs in our bulk department and some amendments to our trading systems, that kind of thing. We were the first to go through that process in Whatcom County, so it was a little trickier for us as the health department and myself. We both had a pretty big learning curve, but we got it all figured out and we implemented it last fall. We admittedly have not been very effectively advertising this, but I am recommending to our marketing department that we start emphasizing this a little bit more widely in 2023. We were just hesitant with COVID. Things just trying to kind of, we allowed it, but we didn't really want to push it on people yet, but I'm ready to do that now. So as far as sourcing responsible packaging goes, I'll just briefly say that we use WCP Solutions as our main packaging distributor. They're a family-owned company founded in Seattle. And they service the entire West Coast. They do have a $500 order minimum, which isn't prohibitive for a lot of businesses, as along with packaging supplies. They offer janitorial and facility supplies, which you can, of course, get locally too, among other things. We have used them for many years, and we find they carry a really wide assortment of packaging that meets the state and local ordinance requirements. Plus, anytime we want to try something new, our rep will send us some samples so we can make some informed decisions about what we're going to implement. One other thing I'll note, and I can drop the link in the chat box, is that if you go to the Compost Manufacturing Alliance website, they have a list of all compostable products that are accepted by commercial composters. And you can also purchase products through them in Cedar Grove. I have no idea what their pricing compares to, like a packaging distributor or something more local, but it's at least worth checking out, especially if there's something you can't find. And so just in closing, I want to share just really quickly a few ways that you can reduce or subsidize the costs of more expensive packaging. I have already mentioned allowing consumer reusables. That saves you the total cost of packaging right there. Going a step further, you can figure out the cost of your packaging and offer comparable discount or incentive when people bring in their own reusables. This kind of creates some nice warm fuzzies between you and the customer. And it rewards them for making a responsible decision to bring in their own container. Another thing you can do is purchase branded reusables to sell and offer a free drink or something, a purchase, or even better, like maybe an ongoing discount of some kind for bringing your branded reusable back in for refilling. That way customers are walking around town advertising your brand and saving you packaging costs. Make sure you're meeting order minimums. I know that sounds simple, but it's sometimes really easy to forget. A lot of companies, small orders can stack up over time with small order charges and that kind of thing. And so running out and having to drive to chef store or whatever, it's going to cost you time and money. So just plan ahead. And, another thing that we've done is you can go in on a bulk order with another similar or nearby business. When we first started buying paper straws, they were really expensive. I found a good quantity discount and asked Kombucha Town if they wanted to get in on the order with us so they could get that bulk discount price too. And then it helped increase the buying power for both our businesses. And then a couple other resources I kind of want to plug real quick. Sustainable Connections, of course, is going to be your best, but I want to put in a plug for the Climate Collaborative. If you're part of the food trade, you can join and make a commitment to a more sustainable future. They offer trainings and resources for finding packaging and networking opportunities, among other things. And their executive director is based in Bellingham. And then the other one is to look into Surfrider Foundation Ocean Friendly Restaurant Certification. Basically, almost everyone qualifies for it now that we have our single-use plastic bans in town, and they can help promote your business, but they also give you access to national vendor discounts on sustainable restaurant and to-go products. And that's my spiel.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Those were tons of great tips right there. I was frantically taking notes. Everyone, we will send them out to the full group. So that in case you weren't taking notes, you don't have to remember, we got that figured out for you. I particularly loved the consumer reusables, those tips, Melissa. That's definitely, where we want to head. We don't want to stop with compostable disposables. And then also those other organizations that can help promote these climate-friendly purchasing decisions. I loved hearing about the Surfrider Foundation too. So thank you so much for that, Melissa. We appreciate your expertise here. I'm going to pass it over to Jenny Hannon next. She's the general manager at Colophon Cafe. All right, Jenny, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I think I followed Melissa last year, and I am even more impressed this year. So mine is not going to be nearly quite as organized. I think I overdid myself last year, and so I'm kind of doing, I guess, a follow-up from the conversation we had. So a little backstory, I work at the Colophon Cafe in Fairhaven. We were founded in 1985. Last week, I just celebrated my 9-year anniversary working there, which is pretty incredible. We've been personally using alternative disposal. So we our full compost restaurant, we're towards zero waste restaurant. And when I talked to my boss about kind of organizing a presentation, he couldn't even give me a date as to how long. Rumor has it, we used to have a compost pile where a lot of flowers is, just kind of an outside makeshift. When Sustainable Connections came on in 2002, we were founding members with them. Which was really cool. And the whole time I've worked there, we've always been a compostable restaurant as far as our disposal. So as far as the information I want to share is probably more just where we were before when the ordinance actually hit, and maybe talk a little bit about some additional support that I found with Sustainable Connections, and kind of getting the city on board with supporting restaurants, knowing that we've got to spend a little bit more money on some of those products. The first thing I want to mention, we pretty much predominantly do our ordering through US Foods, which is a local organization out of Seattle, and they are also technically the mother company of Chef Store, which is on Ohio. We have found, working with our local representative, he's been super helpful and a really good resource with finding products. We've been very adamant for decades about the quality of product that we're looking for. When we were first serving our soup, so those compostable straws couldn't quite take the heat. But now we've found some really awesome products that seem to withstand. Something that I was working on a little bit with Jenna over the last year was getting in contact with and Jenna might have to remind me of the name, the organization that we service our compost system here in Whatcom County. And I have a meeting, I think, with them. They're going to be representing with Brandy. I think they're in it tomorrow, maybe. And so hopefully we'll have a little bit more information. Somebody in the Q&A asked about where our compost is going. are the compostables actually being composted? So I guess that's kind of where I'll segue. Something we've been working on is getting compost put in public spaces. As I know as a restaurant manager, compostable products are more expensive. I did an article last year with Cascadia Daily, just comparing single-use plastics versus compostable products and the cost overhead. The difference, I want to say, it was about a 47% markup for cost of compostables. Now, that's saying you're getting a meal and you're using one of everything, right? Which usually doesn't happen. The cool thing in also doing this research that I would also like to plug is work that I've been doing with sanitary services and looking into our garbage bill. I think it's really easy to focus on the cost of the products that we have to buy and being really bummed out that we have to spend more money. When I learned that not just for my personal home, the commercial compost is a lot less than garbage, but, residential, but commercial is also. Just to throw out some numbers, as an organization, based on the number of toters that we rent each year and the number of pickups we have, we produce roughly 24,000 pounds of waste every single year. Of that, about 85% of it is composted. Now, when doing the math, plugging in the numbers, we looked at we're saving roughly anywhere between $2,000 and $2,500 a year, just simply on composting. So for us, it's kind of combating the fact that we have to use these compostable products. We want to use these compostable products. And we also know that we have a city that provides an option that's going to support it, that's more affordable, which I think is pretty cool. I would say some feedback that I've gotten from other restaurants or that I've kind of seen around town, and I hope that the presenter after me speaks a little bit on this too, is the worry of what, how do I put this? Who's going to get in trouble? Who's going to find out? And I think the focus that we should really have as residents, as business managers, business owners, is really the environmental impact and focusing on not just, oh, we have to do this because we were told to, but let's reduce our waste, just like Jenna was mentioning, providing an option. I'm really glad that you mentioned obviously, at a grocery store, being able to bring in your own containers is super awesome. I have some regulars that come in and they bring their own to-go containers for their leftovers, and we incentivize them. We always give them a little discount as a thank you for us saving money. They feel good doing it. It's a simple ad. So as far as where we were before to where we are now, not really a lot has changed. We've switched over to entirely compostable products. We had a couple things we needed to switch over that were a little difficult to find. One of the things that I have found over this last year with this ordinance is that US Foods has more suppliers wanting to provide more options, some at good price points, some at not so good price points, but it's really just using those resources, talking to Sustainable Connections, going to the chef store in town, and just talking with them. One of the shift managers I chat with pretty often, and he has told me that if they have a product that you're looking for, the more we ask them to have that product, the more likely they're going to start carrying it on their shelves. So I've kind of pushed and prodded for them to get that styrofoam out of there and start providing more easily accessible compostable products that are going to be at comparable price points. And so that's kind of my next mission, I guess, over the year. That's all I have for my spiel. I know it's a little shorter than Melissa's, so hopefully, and I'm a fast talker, so that doesn't help. But that's all I have. I'm open to answering any questions. Happy to be a resource, and if any restaurant owners, managers want to kind of discuss, I'd be more than happy to shoot them an email and have further conversations about what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm really glad you flagged the amount that you're able to save by composting your organic waste. It really does add up. And we actually just worked with Colathon to make a little TikTok video that highlights this effort. And I have to say, Colathon really walks the walk literally, because their Food Plus bins are located 2 blocks up the hill and they still go about doing it. So I really appreciate that. That you all do at Call-a-thon. But I'm going to pass it along to Oleg Betkov. I have to apologize. He's actually the owner of Northwest Solutions, not just sales manager. Oleg, thank you so much. I know you work with so many different businesses here, so really excited to learn about the services and products you provide and all that you've learned from being in this industry.
Yeah, well, I didn't follow up from the last year's conversation, but I'll try and make sure that all the questions are answered. Yeah, my name is Oleg. I wear a lot of hats in the company because I do some sales stuff. I like to be on the ground, but this has been a new working for me. A lot of you probably know me from around town. I ran South Pepper Oil for a long time. I had a restaurant out in Linden, but this is a little bit different, and gotten into it in the past couple of years, and purchasing the company. So with what we do at Northwest Solutions, the main word has been solutions. The company started in '93. It's been around Whatcom County for 30 years. A lot of focus on the industrial sector, warehousing style, institutional, but anything really jam sand, and industrial side, automotive shops, any kind of PPE. It's been a company that's grown off of being able to provide solutions for companies that a lot of times can't get the reactivity of the bigger brands out there. With my background being 100% on the food service side, I had friends and colleagues asking me about some of the laws and if we had products on the consumable side. So I started really working into some of our partners and vendors that we get from, and started picking brains about how we can get products on the consumable side to supply. And so that's been growing over the past 2 years pretty heavily. And Jenna and Brandy, you guys probably know some restaurants that I've talked to you guys about our thing. Our main niche is that it's just the service side. A lot of restaurants and even non-restaurants, we come in, we do the inventory, we pass those sales orders along to managers, we make sure that things are just taken care of. Because the last thing that any manager, any owner, operator wants to do is to have their manager off the floor, out of the kitchen, worrying about the paper cups they're going to run out of. And the reality of it is, most of the time, it's just those misses there. You go from a $5,000 day to a $1,000 day overnight, and you're not looking to have additional stocks. You're not looking to have a bunch of products sitting on inventory or have the space for it. So, yeah, we just work really, really closely with customers. And honestly, I've been really proud of seeing what Bellingham has done. The surrounding areas are kind of following along as well, our county members. But I see the majority of consumables being really taken. Everybody's really doing a good job. There is some small kind of mom and pop shops that need a little bit more support. And from those, we're talking about like styrofoam containers that contain soups, and styrofoam to go, like single compartment, 3 compartments, all those, really easy to switch over. Just being able to educate it and not show them that it's not really a fear thing. It's just, this is the way that it's going to be going. This is how it's better for the environment, and just showing them how, even like the paperware compostable containers, how obviously you can't really put a hot entree in there because it'll be basically all one meal by the time you get home. But lining that with a foil sheet, or even like a dry wax sheet, or some kind of compostable wax paper sheet that can sustain that. And I had mentioned also just and I like that Jenna brought it up, we have to understand that there's a little bit of that reusable side and the really compostable side. As much as we can get away from anything that's plastic, that can't really be easily recycled, that a lot of times is thrown in the trash. If we can get away from most of that stuff, and then maybe the only things I'm really seeing is the heavy duty deli style containers, that for customers that have curries and soups and things that you can't really put in even the 32 ounce soup containers, the paper double wall soup containers. So just being able to work with them, and the education side from Sustainable Connections, the understanding that it's all a transition, and especially like with the food co-op, they've been doing that for so long and have so many resources. And I appreciated Melissa bringing up, West Coast Paper, and we've got a lot of local vendors, the Chef Store and US Foods and Cisco, and everybody's trying to do their best. The best thing that we can do for us is, provide that better service on a local level, and that's really what we strive for. I had a few things here. Just a couple of recommendations that I've been working with restaurants, just when we're talking about it, when we're transitioning. The biggest thing that and it's hard to say to some restaurants, but sometimes just consolidating down the amount of consumable products that they use. It's like you want this one pizza box for this, and you want this container for this meal, and it's got all present well. And part of that is the restaurants and the customer coming to kind of an agreement, or like the restaurants and businesses educating the customers a little bit that it's not always going to be perfect. We have to figure out a way that the food that you expect to get at the restaurant is what you're going to get at home, but there's also the unpredictability of compostable products and how they react to moisture and stuff. So being able to consolidate as much products as they can, and not really trying to be super fancy with the different kinds of consumables that they're maybe used to, with all those, microwavable plastic hinged containers with the little vents on them, and you don't have to be too foo-foo. So and then yeah, like I said, understanding the durability of product and being able to use the proper liners or the proper containers for it to be reusable versus just simply compostable. And then with the price adjustments, that's not necessarily with how much kind of inflation has been, things have happened through COVID and how pricing has fluctuated. The main thing that I try to say is just, we have to try to be able to include it into menu costs somehow. Or, some restaurants have talked about like doing some kind of little to-go charge, like $1 just to cover the costs. And if the menu pricing for just went up by 50 cents or $1 per item, that would help cover a little bit of the cost of majority. If you're doing like a utensil, a to-go box, and maybe they're grabbing a napkin or something to go, it's well worth to be able to use a lot more compostable product, and it really helps for businesses to be able to kind of recoup that cost as much as they can. With a little bit more about our supply, if anybody is interested, we across the board compete with most standard food service purveyors that people are used to. Like I said, the Chef Store and cash and carry, that's what I call it, because that's how I remember it. Yeah, US Foods, Cisco, and everybody's, like I said, is doing their best. If anybody wants to have like myself or anybody from Northwest to come out and we just do free audits most of the time. We just come in and take a look at the products you're using, especially if people aren't sure what the transition steps for their business are. We come in, take a quick audit, consolidate some of the items, send pricing, across the board, from gloves to wraps, foils, to-go boxes, anything consumable as possible. And like I said, it's 100% free. The goal for us is to develop the local business side. Being a small, like a truly local company where we service the majority of Whatcom County and then do some palletized product that ships through Oregon and Idaho and some to Alaska. The main focus is here. And like I said, with Jenna and Brandy, I think Jenna had mentioned that, they've heard from businesses that have worked with us. We just really try to develop that relationship. And, if we can't beat the cost or we can't be a better service, then it's really not worth it for us. So if somebody wants to contact us, info@northwestsolutionsinc.com, and I could probably give that email spelled out to Jenna. Reach out to us, let us know your business. We're happy to come out in the next week or couple weeks, schedule a meeting, and just get you some items, some pricing. And the nice thing with us is we're working with so many different vendors, and a lot of time are able to save customers quite a bit of money when it comes to a lot of the standard purveyor branded product, when it comes to solos and darts and the name brand products that are really expensive. And people, they are offered alternatives to be able to bring in, off-brand products that are more cost-effective, that have a little bit better, the same durability, and be able to, bottom lines of, as we all know, restaurants have been, everybody's been focusing on the bottom lines, not just restaurants. So, yeah, I think that's really it for me. Yeah, if there's any other information anybody needs, feel free to reach out to me. Probably easily 50% of the restaurants in town have my personal cell phone. So just ask them all and it won't be a problem. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Oleg. I just really appreciate that you're able to provide this kind of support for restaurants and other food service businesses. I just know if you're an owner or a manager or in charge of buying these types of supplies, you are so busy, and to navigate this all can feel really frustrating, confusing, and like a lot of work to try to get that best price. So it's great for our local businesses to have you and Northwest Solutions here to find those best prices, to come in, do that audit. That's a great service. So thank you for that. I also appreciated that you brought up the small to-go fee that Brandy also mentioned she's experienced. I think that it's important that restaurants know they have that option. We actually did a survey back in 2021 where most of the respondents said they would be willing to pay a small fee for to-go. They understand that there's an extra product being added to their meal. So I'm glad you flagged that option as well. Thank you. And we'll make sure we get your contact info shared with all registrants. So finally, I'm excited to introduce Molly Bressers. She's the administrative manager at Pepper Sisters and also works with us at Sustainable Connections. So Molly, I'll pass it to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so Pepper Sisters, family business, and we've been open since 1988. Long-time businesses in this panel. It's kind of cool to hear. And we've been involved with Sustainable Connections for a while with Towards Zero Waste, part of the Where to Go with To Go campaign, and for a while had been trying to source compostable, but not everything was until the ordinance. So that helped us kind of get in line. But we also, some other things we've been doing just generally, only giving out takeout utensils by request, or at least asking people if they need them, only straws by request. And I've had customers actually be thankful and say like, oh, thank you for not giving me a straw. I don't want one, or, and then recently, this is more of like a food waste thing, but we switched up our menu a bit. It used to be that all of our entrees came with 2 sides and a salad automatically. And we decided to make them all come a la carte and then have people be able to choose their sides. And we've noticed a huge decrease in our food waste. I don't have any cool numbers like some of the other panelists, but that's been really cool to see. Just, we don't want it to go in the landfill, but we also don't want food to be wasted on site as well. So in terms of compostable, where it's, it can be kind of a pain. One of our things has been, we use the brown eco, they were called eco boxes, similar to what the co-op provides in their deli, the foldable ones. And we thought they were compostable, the ones we were getting at cash and carry. Turns out they're not, they weren't. So we had to kind of go elsewhere to find that same style that works for our food, which is saucy a lot of times. And so the paper clamshells are not as good. So we've been able to find them. We can't find them locally on shelves. So we order those from PFI or Earthly Gourmet. We kind of have a smattering of different places that we go to because sometimes they don't have what we need. But yeah, we'd love to be able to find those at cash and carry because we go there for other stuff. And other issues we had, getting over like the little 2 and 4 ounce cups that we use for like salad dressing or honey butter, which comes with our sopapilla fry bread that comes on the side. Those were really hard to find. We've had times when they switched up sizes and then all of a sudden we had a big stack of lids that didn't fit the bottoms of the same size, but like a different orientation. So that waste was annoying. Other issues, just having to kind of work around like the hot, if we have a bag with the sopapillas in it, we can't put a little honey butter thing in that bag or it will melt. So nothing huge, just like little bumps that we've worked out along the way. And we also have instituted a takeout fee that was talked about in some previous panelists. That is something we added this year. It's 75 cents per menu item per entree. And we're also doing a lot less takeout. I did some numbers for what we were buying for our takeout containers. And this year's way down. We just kind of reopening after a closure, our kitchen couldn't really handle the online ordering volume at the time. So we do phone takeout or in-person takeout, and that's all we're doing at the moment. So that really shifts how much we're buying. But for 2021, we spent about almost $10,000 on our takeout containers, which is like about 6% of our cost of goods sold. So it's not huge, but it's also, we have small margins. So any little bit can help. 2022 went down a little bit, $6,000 or so, which is like 4.5%. And then this year, only a few $100s so far. But I think I don't have comparisons for, plastic versus compostable. This is more about, 2021, we were takeout only for probably, I don't know how many months, I can't remember now, but a big portion of that, during the pandemic, we were doing all takeout or a huge portion takeout. And that has really shifted back to dine-in for us, which is a win in terms of waste. But that I think is more what's reflected in the numbers. We did definitely notice price increases in the takeout containers that we've been buying, doubling sometimes. But for us, it's sort of a no-brainer. Like, we're going to do it anyway. It's just a cost of doing business. We want to provide a compostable item and also now be compliant with the ordinance. So we're not going to stop, but it's definitely a hurdle. And I can see, getting assistance from someone like Oleg, or just being able to find those deals would be helpful for sure. Let's see. So yeah, we added the takeout fee, and I guess my tips and takeaways would just be, be flexible, have a few different providers that you go to, suppliers in your pocket. Also, sometimes you can't get the size that you need, and then it's like, oh, now we have the taller box, and that's just, too bad because it's more waste, but it's kind of got to just get what you can get. So I think it's getting a little easier to find what we need, but ultimately it's worth it. And I do feel like customers appreciate it and they tell us. So it feels good to be doing that part and to see that it's recognized. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Molly. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now because we're going to move into our Q&A. I'm just glad you flagged those brown eco boxes that seem compostable. We actually have started calling things like that brown washed, which is like green wash, but they look like they're compostable, but they aren't. And let's move into the Q&A. The most recent question, we'll get to the one that was earlier on as well, is related to just how easy it is to be confused about what is compostable and what isn't. I think it can be really challenging to be the consumer or even be the purchaser, because a lot of things may seem compostable but aren't. So I think this is a very real problem. I think we're starting to make steps in addressing it. For example, House Bill 1799, which I talked about earlier, which has requirements for businesses making a certain amount of organic waste to compost that waste, also addresses the coloring of compostable utensils. So they need to be off color, like a beige or a brown. So we are starting to take steps in the right direction of standardizing what those products look like. But there's definitely work to be done. There's a few different certifications that consumers can look for, or anyone can look for to know if a product is compostable. you can look for the BPI compostable symbol. And Brandy, maybe you could hunt down some links we can pop in with these symbols. And then Melissa also mentioned Compost Manufacturing Alliance earlier. They have their own certification. So either one of those would work. There's also another one related to the ASTM number that lets someone know that it's compostable, but that's a lot for the consumer to keep track of. So we're trying to do our best to help businesses find those compostable products. I know Oleg is also helping to manage this. We're including those images of compostable symbols on our posters that show what items are compostable. And I think that as more communities are transitioning from single-use plastics in the compostable product industry grows and really solidifies, I'm optimistic that we're going to get better at it, like we got better at recycling over the years. I'm curious if someone else wants to chime in and share about their take on this issue of just the challenges of compostable product labeling.
Yeah, I think what Molly brought up is really important. It is a tough challenge though with the compostability. Even, I mean, with the recent ban on PFAs, the majority of in-stock items of large suppliers are still coming in non-PFA. They're able to work through stock. So a lot of the PFA free products are going to be more of that natural craft color. With those, like you're talking about, Molly, probably the full top containers, it's a hard thing. It's the, the poly coating, the 99% of the product is 100% compostable, but you got to be able to have some sort of grease resistance. So what I always recommend with customers with that, and I've been moving majority of customers over on that side, I mean, just being able to understand again that we have to be able to protect the integrity of the product to go, and we have to be as compliant as we can be. The clamshell containers, the 6x6, the 9x9s, all those, and then being able to line it with something. And then if you have a soup, if you've got a curry, if you've got something really liquidy, go with the heavy duty deli choice, like cups and lids that allow you to be able to have a customer reuse those, because every restaurant I know reuses them. The less heavy duty ones aren't as resistant to breaking and stuff. So, people can store all sorts of salsas and goodies and their leftovers in those as well. But that's really it is a little bit frustrating when you see something that's brown and you're like, oh, this, of course, it's like dirt, but then it's not. So that's my thought.
Well, and I will say too that $17.99, as well as like tinting of products, has also taken a stab at regulating labeling. But it is that if it is compostable and you're labeled as compostable, it has to actually be compostable. But it doesn't work the other way where your product is compostable. You can choose to label it or not. And I think that what happens is where these products are produced, there's maybe in another country that doesn't understand the importance of that and how that could actually help sell their product. And so I think that like they're losing out by not labeling it, but I want to think that maybe that's what's happening.
Something I was going to share, I noticed there was a couple questions in the chat from Laura, and I was viciously responding, and I realized Q&A was going to open up verbally. The meeting that Brandy and I have tomorrow, again, 2 representatives. One is somebody from SSC. I'm not even going to pretend like I remember his name, but I worked with him a little bit last year, but we'll be chatting with him. And then I want to say it's Green Earth Energies or Green Earth Solutions is up in Linden. It's the composting facility here in Whatcom County. Is that right, Jenna? Give me a nod.
It's Green Earth Technology. But
Green
yes.
Earth Technology. Yeah. Thank you. I knew I was off on a word. And I have been emailing with them for the last 3 years to actually get a tour within their facility. sometime in the last, before I started, there was a different kitchen manager. So maybe 10 years ago, we actually took our staff and did a tour. I say we, as I wasn't there, took our staff and was able to do a tour in the hot compost facility and actually learn about the process. And sounds like Laura, you were asking about contamination and the process. I'm only speaking secondhand from what I heard, but they have a system within there where, because it's a hot compost system, it's able to break down those biodegradables quicker using heat, and therefore some little things that get in it that we might think, here's a silly one for us, those little toothpicks with the little plastic frillies on top, that does actually get broken down in that system because it's such a minuscule amount in the amount of time, and they do have a sorting system in which they do filter that out. That organization, from what I know, is contracted with SSC and isn't, they aren't affiliated, they're a separate business that SSC has contracted with. Is that right, Jenna? And my hope is to connect with the representative in person tomorrow and get some more personal information, and maybe continue working with Jenna and Brandy on how to learn about the compost system that we have, what's working, what's not, and what we can do as a community to prevent that contamination. Just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jenny. And actually, it's a great plug for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting is all about organics tomorrow. We will have the owner of Green Earth Technology there talking about their composting system, as well as a presentation by our very own Brandy on our multifamily composting pilots, and a presentation about cannabis waste as well. So it's going to be a really good one. It's at 5:30 p.m. It's open to the public, and you can join in person or online. And Brandy, if you don't mind finding that website, you're already on it. Thank you. So folks can tune in for that as well. So just looking at our other questions, I think we've answered to the best of our ability the questions in the chat. And I want to kind of go back to kind of like maybe a smaller question, more nitty-gritty question, but we recently were asked by a business who says they're just pulling their hair out trying to find a portion cup for a hot condiment sauce that goes into it. And I thought while we had this panel here, we could see if you all had any recommendations for a portion cup for hot liquids.
Does it need to have a lid?
Let's say yes.
Then no.
Yeah, that's a tough one. We would have to use like a soup, I mean, the smallest possible type of soup container, I think, for our sauces, because yeah, they just melt.
And if we're saying sauces, like generally 2-ounce portion, 4-ounce portion is probably, yeah, we would most likely do the same thing. The smallest we have is we have a 12-ounce container, and we even have to like scoop one thing of hummus, you know, in there, because those containers, they're tough to find.
Yeah, and the PLA, it doesn't hold up anywhere close to what standard plastic does. So what can I ask what the product is? Because the only thing I can imagine is au jus for dip, but what would possibly be the product that they were looking to?
Great question. I'm not sure exactly. So let's say some au jus is what was needed.
I mean, you know, depending on the heat. Yeah, depending on the heat, because like you could put a warm liquid into products, but the other thing is, especially if it's a customer's taking it to go, if it's a true to go order and it's being packed hot on the line, that's an item that there could easily be like a thermal sticker or some kind of heat resistant sticker that could be put on there that says reheat at home before eating, you know, kind of thing. But if somebody's already eating and they're taking it to go, I wouldn't assume it's hot enough to have to be a heat resistant ramekin. So yeah, maybe that customer can reach out and we can find a solution for them and be all good.
We serve au jus in a soup cup, but same thing. It's a 12-ounce cup and there's a level of it, but they're meant for soups. It has that poly liner in it, or I don't even think it's poly. I think it's like a wax liner. And the cups we use are compostable, and I'm happy to do a little digging. I want to say they have an 8, a 12, a 16, and a 32 ounce of that brand.
Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, Melissa.
I was just going to say that I'm pretty sure Eco Products has 4-ounce compostable cups, like soup cups kind of thing. I know we get 8-ounce ones from them, but I'm fairly certain they have a 4-ounce too, like the World Centric. I don't know how it is with hot stuff, but it is a 4-ounce paperboard, and they should have lids for it. So
great. Thank you. And to answer Katie's question, these small portion cups are included just in the part of the ordinance that's in effect right now, in small container. I'm realizing it's 3:03, so I want to respect everyone's time. Thank everyone for coming. We will have an email coming out probably at the end of the week or early next week with the recording, all these amazing resources and tips from our panelists. Thank you so much for attending. And I just want to share in the chat window that you can click or not. And again, this will be in our follow-up email as well. We just produced a video with the city of Bellingham highlighting our kitchen, which is one of the vendors down at the Container Village, their transition from single-use plastics. We are looking for another business to make a video about their transition. So if you know a business that fits the bill, please flag them for us. But otherwise, I just want to thank you all, thank our panelists, thank the city of Bellingham for supporting this work. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.